inflation is low, but the price levels are still high. Going into the shop, you're not going to get a discount because inflation is now 2%. You're just not going to have to pay as significant more in a year's time.
Adrian Orr says there is scope for further cuts to the OCR through 2025, subject to the economic activity tracking to expectations. People referred to public health system gastro departments are waiting months for an appointment, even when they have symptoms. It could be a sign of bowel cancer or other disease. RNZ has reported the stories of patients throughout New Zealand waiting for months or even years for crucial surveillance colonoscopies. Now we've spoken to people experiencing worrying symptoms who are waiting for a colonoscopy or gastroscopy, while hearing nothing about when they'll be seen. Health NZ says it's doing staff recruitment drives to cope with an increase in gastro referrals. You can hear more about this soon on Checkpoint. New Zealand First Leader Winston Peters wants Parliament's standing orders to be updated around the use of the name Aotearoa. Green MP Ricardo Menendez March referred to the country's name as Aotearoa during question time this afternoon. Referring to Mr Menendez March's migrant status, Mr Peters asked the Speaker why someone who came to New Zealand in 2006 was allowed to ask a question that changed the country's name without it going to a referendum. Mr Peters wants to know why the Speaker is allowing MPs to use Aotearoa or New Zealand interchangeably.
My country is called New Zealand. I know out there the vast majority of New Zealanders believe this country's name is New Zealand. And if the name's going to change, when I ask New Zealand people first, radicals decide they're going to change it.
Speaker Jerry Brownlee says he will consider the matter and report back to the House. For another 3 years after launching a campaign for a second term. Mr Brown made the announcement at the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron in Auckland this afternoon. The 78-year-old has been Mayor of the Super City since 2022. Speaking at his launch, Mr Brown says there's still more to do in the city.
The managers are learning it is not career enhancing to be associated with dumb stuff like expensive beach stairs at Milford, and wastage gets called out at the council now.
Wayne Brown says he wants Aucklanders to bring him back to finish what he started 3 years ago. The Prime Minister is taking advice on what action, if any, he might initiate against the Electoral Commission. A Public Service Commission report found government agencies failed to safeguard data collected at Manurewa Marae. It followed allegations that the information was misused for election purposes, which police are now investigating. Christopher Luxon says there are genuine questions about the policy and conduct of the Electoral Commission, and he's asked for advice on his options. Both the ACT and New Zealand First leaders support an investigation. The US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has briefed the foreign ministers of key European countries about talks between the US and Russia. In response, the European Union's top diplomat has warned against what she calls Russian attempts to sow division. The BBC's Sarah Smith has the details of what Mr. Rubio said.
From Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, we heard that those were not negotiations about how to end the war. They were simply initial talks between America and Russia who will now put together top teams who will speak to each other about the parameters of how the war might end. And the Secretary of State was very clear. He said if they do get to the point of actually negotiating what a peace deal or a ceasefire might look like, at that point Ukraine will be brought into the talks and some European nations will be consulted. But for now, those talks are very much between only the United States and Russia.
The Union for Journalists is deeply concerned by the loss of 30 jobs in a restructure at NZME, the publisher of the New Zealand Herald newspaper. The company announced today at least 7 experienced senior reporters will leave the newspaper as it switches focus to a new streaming channel. E2 Director Michael Wood says news that investigative, political, sports and specialist writers at a major media organisation are being made redundant is worrying. He says reduced capacity will impact NZME's ability to cover important news. In sport, Black Caps veteran Tom Latham says New Zealand and Pakistan have played so much against each other in recent years, there'll be few surprises in tonight's Champions Trophy opener in Karachi. New Zealand played Pakistan in 3 one-day series after the past 3 years and beat beaten twice in recently completed tri-series in Pakistan.
Pakistan and us have got information on each other, so it's going to be another cracking game. The opening game of the Champions Trophy is really special, and to be playing against the host nation is going to be a great occasion.
A group that includes former Kiwis and Queensland Rugby League coach Sir Graham Lowe says it's well advanced with plans to bring a State of Origin match to New Zealand. Lowe says the group's had initial talks with the government and the management of the new Christchurch Stadium Te Kaha and will make a formal bid to the NRL next month. The NRL has previously talked of bringing a State of Origin game to New Zealand. Michael Checker has met with Rugby Australia, raising speculation he could return as Wallabies coach and succeed New Zealand Joe Schmidt. Checker previously coached the Wallabies between 2014 and 2019. Schmidt will end his term as Wallabies coach in October. While Rugby Australia won't comment on the meeting, it did say they've drawn up a targeted shortlist of possible replacements. That's the news.
John Tamihere on the potential misuse of private data.
It's an allegation. It's easy to throw stones, but you shouldn't bring glass houses when you do so.
Hamish Kerr recalls his golden Olympic jump-off.
There was no chance that I was ever going to share it. You know, I had the keys to the Ferrari, so to speak. I was pretty to drive it.
The thunderous night includes that.
My wild night was sitting sunbathing, but about 20 kilometres away, all hell was breaking loose. So we're really telling our locals, use your nifty, watch out and drive to the conditions.
Your initiative, listen to Morning Report. Weekdays from 6 on RNZ National.
Now the short forecast from Met Service to midnight Thursday. Northern, Auckland, Coromandel and Bay of Plenty. Scattered showers mainly tomorrow and possibly heavy inland during the afternoon. Waikato to Wellington, including the central high country, also Wairarapa. Scattered showers clearing to mainly fine tomorrow. However, isolated showers for Taranaki late tomorrow. Gisborne and Hawke's Bay mainly fine. A shower possible from tomorrow afternoon. Nelson, Marlborough and Canterbury. Isolated showers possibly heavy with thunderstorms, hail and localised downpours in South Canterbury clearing to overnight. Buller, Grey, Westland and Fiordland. Periods of rain or showers with thunderstorms possible. Otago and Southland showers some heavy. Thunderstorms and localised downpours possible. Harbour this afternoon and evening. Showers clearing for a time tonight or tomorrow morning. And the Chatham Islands, occasional rain clearing by noon tomorrow. It's 8 minutes past 5.
Kia ora rā e ho, no mai hoki mai. This is Checkpoint, ko Lisa Owen tēnei. A house party for some mortgage holders at least. The Reserve Bank today slashed wholesale interest rates 0.5% to 3.75%. It is the third consecutive jumbo cut. And if you've got a mortgage, it could mean repayments are going to cost you less, more money in your back pocket. But the Reserve Bank Governor is banking on people spending more to help a sluggish economy fire up. To make sense of the money, we're joined by Kiwi Bank Chief Economist Jared Kerr. Kia ora, Jared. How long before people feel better off, feel richer, do you reckon?
Kia ora. Well, I think those with a mortgage will start to see their mortgage rates fall. They'll be rolling off rates which were a little too high, in my opinion, to rates that are a lot more reasonable, and I think will fall a little further this year.
How far will it go?
Well, the cash rate, I think, is going to 3%, so we could see, mortgage rates falling a little further, so I'd expect to see, some rates slightly below 5, some rates above 5, but, around that area.
And will people have to wait to the end of the year for it to go under 5? For longer term?
Yeah, I think by the middle of the year, actually. Those longer terms, like the 3 years and beyond, might be held up by what's happening overseas. But the shorter dated, the 1 year, those rates got it.
Right, stop wandering around, Jared. We keep losing you where you are on your mobile phone. So, if the governor, the Reserve Bank governor, has said that the economy is still a bit sluggish, right, and suggested that a little bit of extra money, people spending, could fire things up. But are people actually going to feel well enough off to spend the little bit that they may be saving?
I think so. I think that as these rates the economy, we're going to see confidence lift. We're going to see household confidence lift. and business confidence, and that's going to feed through into more activity and even more confidence going into next year.
Right, you economists are all about confidence. You know, it's the vibe, right? How would you describe the vibe right now? How are people feeling? Business?
Oh, it's better than what it was. I mean, you know, from August last year to now, confidence has definitely lifted. People are still waiting for activity. So, you know, confidence has improved, and that should feed through to activity later in the year.
So how bad is the economy right now?
Oh, we've been through a recession, a bad recession. It started in 2022, and it got much worse. It snowballed into 2024, so a significant contraction last year. And, you know, I think the Reserve Bank has got a lot of work to do to dig us out of the hole that they put us in.
Has they gone far enough then?
Not at the moment, no. We're at 375. That cash rate is still deemed restrictive, so it's still restraining the economy right now, where, you know, if anything, we need a bit of stimulus.
And what would that look like?
Well, cutting to 3% for starters, and then having a look around. And if things deteriorate offshore, with tariffs and all these geopolitical risks, then they may have to cut below 3%, get us into military territory, to really fire up the economy into next year.
You talk about geopolitics. What role is Donald Trump going to play in our mortgage rates?
He's going to have a big role. He's already had a role. You know, US interest rates lifted on the back of US interest rates are factoring in a little bit more growth, a little bit more pro-business, but also more inflation, and that translates into higher interest rates for the rest of the world. So the longer end of our curve is lifted on the back of Trump already. If he has his way and delivers the tariffs that he wants to deliver, it's also going to put some pressure.
Most people can expect for now.
Well, banks have already been cutting before today, as you say, so, you know, a lot of it's been passed on. What I'm thinking about is the next, you know, the next 75 basis points down to 3. That'll also be passed on. I think.
How many people would be doing short-term mortgages, like for less than a year? Fixed for less than a year?
81% of the entire mortgage book. So of all mortgages outstanding, 81% of them are fixed for less than a year.
I hate to make you do the maths in your head, Jared, but can you give us a bit of an idea on your average mortgage, whatever figure you want to say? I mean, how much money is that with 0.5% rate cut? What are you getting in your pocket?
Well, I mean, you know, average mortgage of around 800,000 is, you know, it's meaningful, but it's not just this move. It's the fact that we've already seen 125 basis points of rate cuts feeding through. So, you know, people are likely to see, you know, rates that are 2% or more, you know, than what they were paying, you know, this time last year.
Before you go, even though you're on a slightly dodgy line, I want to know from you, Jared, if people are getting more money in their back pocket and they're feeling richer and they start to spend, are we going to be poking the inflation beast, or has it been tamed?
I think we can cut further without stimulating inflation. This is why we talk about neutral rates. So if we think of a neutral rate as 3%, you know, the Reserve Bank can cut to there without stimulating inflation. So we still can provide more relief without actually poking that dragon.
Thank you, Jared. Appreciate your time. Jared Kerr, Kiwi Bank Chief Economist there. Interested in your thoughts. Feeling any richer if you've got a mortgage? 2101 on text. Tweet us at checkpoint RNZ. What kind of difference will it make to you? Interest rate cuts today. It is 5:15. You're with Checkpoint on RNZ National. People referred to the public health system gastro department for colonoscopies or other exams. Symptoms that could be a sign of bowel cancer or other disease. Reported the stories of patients throughout New Zealand waiting for months or surveillance colonoscopies. We've spoken to people experiencing worrying symptoms who are waiting going for a colonoscopy or a gastroscopy, while hearing nothing from Health New Zealand. Health NZ has told us it has staff recruitment drives along with other ideas underway to an increase in gastro referrals. Jimmy Allen reports.
My dad had bowel cancer, and my mum died of pancreatic cancer, so I was really worried about something like that for me as well.
So that's not true, but the health insurance